Our intercessions must be based on the character of Yahweh, not our own personal righteousness. Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 4 of Shelach Lecha. Let's go into chapter number 14. 12 men have just returned from touring/spying the land of promise, 10 of which have brought forth a slanderous, malicious report stating that the land is everything promised, but there are giants there and we simply can't have it. Yahweh has played a cruel joke on us. He's laughing. He's brought us out here for nothing. 2, Yehoshua and Caleb are standing, pleading with the people to believe in Yahweh, that these giants are but bread for us. We can take the land. Let's go get it. And they're drowned out by the jeers, the sobs, the wails, and the angry mob words that is like a deafening roar. In chapter number 14, we see that the people wept in their tents all night. Now, you and I, from a Western culture, would think of weeping, tears rolling down the face, quiet sobs. We read that and we think, well, maybe they stood, looked forlornly out the door of their tents, groaned silently, turned to their husbands, their wives, eyes puddled with tears and shaking their heads, whispering to one another, I wish we had never come. Maybe we imagine them laying in their beds, quietly crying into their pillows. Such is the preferred Western mind revelation of that. These are not Western people. These are Middle Eastern people. These are Semitic people who, when they have received bad news, they weep demonstratively. Let me say that word very easily. Demonstratively. The cultural mechanism of this level of weeping is something that you would have witnessed on the TV reports of the Arab Spring. Maybe a funeral procession for a fallen IDF soldier, someone that has been horribly, violently murdered at the hands of the Arab terrorists in the Middle East. Flailing of the arms, gesturing, looking around, crying out loudly, wailing, almost beyond the place of consolation and comfort. Their pain is not shoved down in Western methodologies. Let's not make a public scene here. Let's not fall apart. Let's hold it together until we can get alone, and then we can wail and cry. But we just, in our culture, we just don't want to totally break down. In a Middle Eastern culture, at least what I've witnessed in news reports and so forth, very demonstrative, very vocal and loud. So you have several million people tenting in the wilderness who have just learned that it would seem the promise that they had been banking on, the reason for their last year's endurance, the hope and the ambition for futures for their children and grandchildren, is now an empty promise. And a couple of things are here. Number one, somebody else already has my promise and they're not going to give it to me. Number two, the one who made the promise is not trustworthy in our estimation. And so we don't believe that if we just go over and attack that we'll win because he's on our side. Obviously, he has brought us out here to kill us because he hates us and we don't trust him. We talked about that. And so what is going on very likely at this point is that Moshe and Caleb and Yehoshua and Aaron, they are listening to a loud roar and wail that is collective throughout the entire camp. People are gesturing at one another. They are yelling and wailing at one another. Tears are abundant. Cries are vibrant. And it is just awful. One has to ask themselves the question, if this were indeed the case, what was Moshe doing that night? Did he yawn at them and say, that's just them being them, and go to sleep? Was he on his face all night and the floor of his tent? Was he standing at the entrance of the tabernacle pleading with Yah for help? We're not told. And I'd be honest with you, I don't know what I would do if I were in his given situation. The end result of this is Yah is mad. Matter of fact, he is so mad that he says to Moshe, stand out of the way. I'm going to hit them with a plague. They're all going to die, and I will start all over with you. I can almost see Moshe saying, let me think about this. He's had it. Remember, in the last Torah portion, he was saying, if you're going to lead this way, kill me now. I'd rather die than lead these people. He is not standing in the gap and saying, if you take them out, take me too. He is pleading with Yah for their lives based on Yah's character, not their righteousness. So they began to voice a cry that says, let's go back to Mitzrayim. Let's elect a leader. Let's just get back to Mitzrayim. Let's ask a few practical questions here. When they get back to the Red Sea, how are they going to get back across that? When Yah brought them across in the present direction, he split the waters and gave them dry ground. How are they going to get back? Is he going to split the sea for them again? Not this time. So how many boats do they have to build? Number two, what are they going to eat and drink on their way back? Manna is falling in the camp of Israel. Water is flowing from the rock for Israel. When they turn around and try to get back home, how are they going to eat? Will the manna survive if they pick it up? It's going to rot before they get a day's journey away. And it's not going to show up for them the next morning. Did they intend on taking the tabernacle with them? Did they actually believe that Yah's presence would abide even in this set-apart structure if they took it back to Mitzrayim? Would they even find their way back if the cloud didn't go before them and lead them? Now we may say, well, what does that have to do with any of us? Quite a bit. You see, we're trying to get to a place. We're trying to find ourselves on the right path to the kingdom. We're trying to get from our point A to Yah's point B. The tabernacling of his presence is that we are walking in a right direction and his presence will go with us? Do we trust him for food and water provision? Are we working on that ourselves? Are we setting foods aside? Or are we making provisions for a hard time? Or are we expecting food to show up on the ground? What are we doing? Are we trying to keep the tabernacle in Mitzrayim and this present world system? How are we going to get across from where we are to where we need to be? Yah will have to make a way. And when we pray, do we dare believe that we have the ability to cry our way into his sympathies? Or are we crying out to him based on his character, his righteousness, and the work of Yeshua and not our own? More on these things tomorrow. And until then, shalom.